another edition of the Mistake-Free Real Estate Podcast. I am your host, Marck Lautour, and today I'm joined by my good friend and Missouri native, Jimmy Vreeland. How are you, mate?
I'm terrific, dude. I've been very excited to record this podcast since for about 3 weeks since we went to CG.
Absolutely. Guys, as you know, Jimmy and I do a quarterly wrap-up, our takeaways from the Collective Genius Mastermind, so that you guys that are not there with us can still garner some of these massive nuggets that we get every single time that we go to CG. And boy, this happened to be, I mean, Jimmy, how many people told you after this mastermind that it was the best one ever?
It was absolutely, yeah, everybody, at least 80% of the room.
Quite frankly, everyone came up and were highly complimentary, not only from the content that the membership was dropping, guys, but also we got to have a very, very special guest keynote speaker. And today we're going to give you the gold nugget takeaways from that keynote speaker. So today, and Jimmy, let me just back up a little bit. The Mistake-Free Real Estate Podcast is obviously my baby, but you have a podcast that you're going to throw this up on as well. I want to give credit where credit is due. You have a very loyal audience. Can you briefly shout out to your cash flow tactics people and a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, Rise Up, Live Free listeners, thanks for being on. Our podcast centers around how you become financially free in 10 years or less.
Okay, so along those lines, guys, Collective Genius this quarter was down in Scottsdale, Arizona. We all got together, and the keynote speaker for Wednesday was none other than Jeff Hoffman. Now, he is not exactly a household name, and he loves it that way, but he is a billionaire, successful software engineer nerd that has successfully founded and grown several companies that are mainly tech companies. They are in the hotel and travel industry primarily. You may know his brands as Priceline.com, his most famous one, as well as his initial foray into the travel industry was that he actually was the guy that put those airport kiosks into the airport. So if you go up there and touch screen to check in for a flight at those airport kiosks, that was his brainchild that he sold out to the travel industry back in the late 90s, and then parlayed his winnings, if you will, into a couple of other auction sites, ubid.com, as well as the most famous Priceline.com. So when we came in, there was, he was very gracious with his time. He actually gave us two keynote speakers today, two keynote speeches. Today, we're going to focus on his first, which was the keys to entrepreneurial success. And so we just kind of go down his bullet points here of what he saw as keys to entrepreneurial success. And I'm going to kind of riff, and Jimmy, I'd love to get your input here, mate. First, you got to meet Jeff Hoffman. What were some takeaways in general before we get into his gold nuggets, Jimmy? What were your takes when you got to speak with him? What were your general thoughts on the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Hoffman?
I just found the guy incredibly humble and just kind of a regular guy.
Yeah, I thought that he was one of the takeaways for me was you kind of put billionaires on a level peg and think that they're doing something that you are not. I think he's just been able to scale his excellence, and the keys that we're going to share with you today for anyone in any position, whether you're a small business owner, whether you're a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer, or someone hustling and grinding in the real estate space, you will get a lot of content dropped today from these keys to entrepreneurial success. So without further ado, he started off by saying that billion-dollar thinkers think differently. What got you here won't get you there. What do you think were the main things there? I think he was determining mainly that it was an attitude shift, was his first one, Jimmy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I hate that idea. It just makes it so hard, Mark.
Because you just been thinking to get here. What's going to get you to the next level? I think,
dude,
it's think bigger, right? Like I've been challenged this year to think bigger in my own business. And we'll talk later about gold medal talents and focusing on the one thing. But think the takeaways I had in this instance were simply that he deals with guys that are thinking at a bigger scale. They're thinking scale from the get-go. You don't have to be a realist. The guy that started Zillow was not a real estate guy. He was a software guy, but he just thought, what if? And he kind of looked at different industries and thought, well, rather than just saying, what are people doing in real estate? how about you think, what are people doing in the hotel industry that I could figure out a niche or find something they're doing extremely well and do that in my space?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the name of your business, coach, again?
Daniel Marcos.
Yeah. So Marcos and Scale Up and Dan Sullivan, they're always talking about a ceiling of complexity. And then I think the most frustrating part about growing personally, professionally, anywhere is that, I think about every 90 days, you start banging up on a ceiling of complexity that, just to go back to the original statement, that the ideas that got you in the room are not the ideas that'll get you out. And I love that statement, but I find it initially when I'm like, oh man, I'm at another ceiling, it's incredibly frustrating.
Well, I think one of the limiting factors of people that are kind of in our space, Jimmy, is that they tend to try and think, and I know you and I fall into this trap quite often, is that, okay, there's a ceiling. I got to bust through. I got to do it myself. I've got to try and figure out a way. And I know you're the king of that. But then you surround yourself with smart people inside CG and you're like, oh my gosh, CG slap. Like I didn't need to do it all myself. I could clearly just go and figure out that it's actually who, not how. Not how can I do it, but who can I employ? Who can I partner with or collaborate with to get me through that ceiling?
Yeah, that's the incredible thing about a mastermind. Like my first instinct is always just run my face into the wall, but it's several times when you're in a mastermind, it's like, oh no, here, dude, I'll hand you the key so you can unlock the door and go to your next room of complexity.
I think one of the things that Silicon Valley has done really, really well is they understand that, they're kind of taking the entrepreneurial flair, but then throwing money behind it. Because imagine if, Jimmy, you and I didn't have to worry about money. We could bank raise $100 million and then just go hire the right people to just jumpstart and jump over the rooms of complexity and get through all those ceilings of complexity you talk about and get to the next level. And that's what they do extremely well, is they will go get the buy-in and understand that there are people that are way, way, way smarter at real estate. And they might be an algorithm nerd. So they'll go build an algorithm, but then they'll get the real estate people in the room and say, okay, what would make your life easier? Let me build an algorithm. How did that look? How can I do it better? And they keep going around and around, getting the right people in the room. As a small business owner, it's a challenge because we don't have that same luxury of having hundreds of millions of dollars in VC capital. The flip side is you have 100% ownership a lot of times in your business. But as he well said, hey, a percentage of $1 billion is better than 100% of, $100,000, right?
Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a dichotomy that you're always going to run across. People who have an issue of too much cash to deploy generally lack talent, right? And then people who generally don't have lack talent or a network of talent generally lack capital to deploy to leverage that talent. So it's essentially, there's always going to be a tug of war between talent and capital.
So what is the takeaway for those that don't have the big VC capital in your mind? If someone is out there hustling and grinding and they run up a ceiling of complexity, what's the answer?
I think you got to mastermind, become a friend with somebody who's been through it, who's already punched through that ceiling.
Yeah. Who, not how is the answer, right? So go find someone who has been there, partner with them, learn from them, pay for their, I think too many people think the only way to get the answer is to employ somebody, but consultants will do it, get a consultant, get a coach, get someone who has been there and just say, hey, look, I value your time. You've been there. I haven't. Can I please pay you to educate me as to what can get me through the ceiling of complexity?
And then mindset wise, just knowing that, you're not that special. Every problem you have, somebody else has solved. And just having that fundamental belief that there's a solution, instead of being like, oh, is this too hard? There's no solution. Woe is me. I quit.
Okay. Number one, $1 billion thinkers think differently. They think bigger. Second thing is stop trying to be good at many things. Go win a gold medal at one thing. What was your big takeaway when he started talking about being a gold medal winner, Jimmy? What do you think your gold medal talent is?
Oh man, I'll be honest with you. I struggled with this one. I kind of wanted to turn him off at this point because I passionately love to chase squirrels. So, I mean, my takeaway was, you got to be disciplined. You got to find what your unique ability is. And then you just got to leverage that thing as much as possible. Like it took me to be like 38 to really even get close to articulating what my unique ability is, but it has something to do around selling and kind of running my mouth. Like, and I'm still struggling to like really nail it down, but I would call it sales.
Yeah, I think our unique ability here at XPD is to find deals in real estate and to be the trusted source that people can trust to invest capital into real estate. I think we do a good job here of educating our investor base to give them comfort to know that their money is safe. I think that's a pretty special talent, to allow people to deploy capital into real estate safely and securely and with trust, because I think the real estate industry in general has done a very poor job of catering to the high income, high net worth individual that wants to get into real estate, but just doesn't have the time. Like, they can throw money in the stock market, no problem, but that's risky and gambling and probably not the smartest use of capital. The safest use of capital is real estate, but there's so many inefficiencies in the marketplace that allow us to go. I mean, the inefficiencies are a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing, and that allows us to go find amazing deals in real estate that you're like, oh my gosh, why is everyone not doing this? Well, it's a very inefficient marketplace. Zillow and Trulia and OfferPad and all these different companies are trying to make it an efficient real estate space, but at the end of the day, it's still having to get in the living room and hammer out deals the way that you guys do so well at iBuySTL. But I think that is the secret sauce, is that we are taking advantage of an inefficient marketplace and then surrounding ourselves and doing it with this veil of security to allow others to do it. Thoughts? So
what's a practical thing you're not going to do because of that takeaway? Because are you as bad at me as chasing squirrels?
No, clearly no one is as bad as you at chasing squirrels. you take the gold medal talent in chasing squirrels. What am I not going to do? No, I think we have pretty clear parameters that we're not going to go do self-storage. We're not good at self-storage. We're not going to go do office because we're not good at office. We know that we are the single family we're residential guys. We are single and multifamily real estate investment guys, and we can find deals in that space. All other gold, shiny objects we stay away from. I think that gives us a strength.
Yeah, so I think he was telling us for that exact process to happen, define your gold medal talent and just start leveraging it. He made a great example. Like, Michael Phelps didn't swim for 20 minutes and then go home and work on his jump shot. The dude just swam for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So SBD homes, if it's anything not to do with multifamily, or if it's nothing to do with residential real estate, you guys are out.
We're out. 100%. Hey, thanks for the offer. We're focused. We're laser focused in doing what we're doing, and we're going to move on.
Yeah. And you acknowledge there's an opportunity cost. Like, sure, you might miss out on the greatest crypto deal ever.
Absolutely.
Or the greatest stock deal ever.
Yeah. No, I mean, and there are people that, look, when the market tanked, from the COVID-19 pandemic, when it first hit in March of 2020, clearly there were deals in the stock market, and we could have doubled our money likely by throwing a bunch of money at Marriott and the airline industry and all the ones that just tanked for no particular reason. You knew that would come back. Hertz isn't going anywhere. Marriott's not going anywhere. You could have, and clearly they bottomed out. Look at Boeing. Boeing went down to 100 and now back up to 400. But that's just not my space. I don't do it. Crypto. I looked at crypto when it's $5,000 and I thought people were crazy, right? Now it's 10X and I'm looking like an idiot, but that's not my space. So you have to keep the main thing. That is not my gold medal talent. So I choose to avoid it.
So
I also choose to not kick I choose not to kick myself in the tail and beat myself up over the fact that I've not made money in those spaces when it's not my space.
And that is huge. Like, I guess you would call that FOMO, but I see that as a big error. People have an investing decision criteria. They follow it, they win, but they don't win big enough. Like their brother-in-law who rode the crypto wave, and then they're mad at themselves. Like that is the worst way to invest.
Yeah, every decision has positive and negative ramifications. And if you kick yourself from making qualified, educated decisions at the time, if I had bought crypto at 5,000, when it got to 10,000, I would have sold. And then I would have been kicking myself anyway. I'll double my money. It's going to go down. And then it would have continued to go up and I would have kicked myself anyway. So
you got to live with blinders like that. Do you want to hear a funny crypto story?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm listening to a guy. So he knows I'm speaking with a dude. He knows I'm big into real estate. Like he was asking all my opinions on real estate. Like there was mutual respect. Right. And I knew he was a smart guy too. And then he asked my opinion on crypto, and I was just like, huh? And he's like, well, what's your opinion on crypto? And I'm like, he got kind of mad at me. I was like, my opinion on crypto is I have no opinion on crypto. Like, my unique ability is around the real estate space. Like, like, you'd be proud of me. I was not going to chase that squirrel.
I love it.
But just so this guy, I believe he prided himself in being very knowledgeable. And like, I don't pride myself on being very knowledgeable at all. But he was shocked that I didn't even have an opinion.
All right, next. So I'm going to recap as we go. Number 1, think different, think bigger. Number 2, find your gold medal talent. Number 3, don't chase money, chase excellence.
That was my favorite.
Isn't it? I was going to say, you're grinning from ear to ear. Tell me a little bit about your takeaways there. Why did that one hit you so hard, Jimmy?
I've been, the idea that's been like banging around in my head for at least 2 months is like, you want to be free so you have the freedom to pursue excellence, not the freedom from restraint. And so then when I had another guy speaking to me about pursuing excellence, like my brain just started, I was like, I'm bought in. I will do anything this guy tells me to do. But, you know, I was thinking about it this morning too, like your P&L, the numbers in your bank account, like at a certain point, and this guy's definitely hit this point, and then us living in the Midwest, it's not that hard to hit this point.
Yeah.
Where like more money in your bank account, it doesn't do that. There's a marginal benefit to it. It doesn't do that much for you, but it's like, I want to drive up P&Ls. I want to play the game harder. Just money to keep score more.
I was going to say, money is a scoreboard, right? At the end of the day, those that are driven, and typically business owners are pretty driven, type A personalities. And money is a scoreboard. And I think, especially when you get in a room like CG, there's a tendency to look at the scoreboard and start comparing and contrasting how everybody's doing. One of the things when I sat down, the very first session, I sat down with my CEO coach, Daniel, and he said, so what's your end goal? Why are you doing what you do? I'm like, I want to win. It's like, well, what does winning look like? And suddenly I'm like, dang it, just give me some operational expertise, Daniel. I want to go crush harder. He's like, no, I want to know what winning looks like. So when we get there, you can pat yourself on the back. And you have to start thinking. And the other thing is, he said, I want to know what your non-negotiables are. And that was something that I had to really give thought to, Jimmy, because if you start thinking, what are your non-negotiables, things like actually putting lines in. The blessing and the curse of being a small business owner is you get to change the rules, Jimmy. One day you can have this as a rule, and then you know what, that's not a rule anymore. I'm going to change and pivot over here, and it's not a rule.
Right.
And having non-negotiables that you want to write down what you are willing and not willing to do. Am I willing to put my own personal home on the line to further the bottom line of the business? That is something that has not been a non-negotiable. Absolutely. As a small business owner, I'll put my personal home on the line to get a line of credit and to grow and scale and buy assets and grow. That's something that as we're at the size now, I'm starting to say, you know what? That's no longer going to be on the cards. I'm going to try and take that off the table in the next 6 months so that, my family does not, my wife and I don't have to have that as something that's a risk profile for our company to grow. Again, we're at that size and scale of the company where I think that's feasible for me to do. I'm not saying everyone has to do that. That was one that certainly was just kind of an impression upon me. Have you thought through non-negotiables in your business, Jimmy? Is it a time thing? Is it a not missing your kids' baseball games? Like, what hits you the hardest when you're like, gosh, I shouldn't be doing this right now? That should be a non-negotiable.
I mean, well, my non-negotiable goes back to West Point, like the honor code. I won't lie, cheat, and steal. Like, and then there's, especially in sales, especially in a long-term asset like real estate, there's so much gray space where you could do that. And so for me, it's like, I'm going to pursue excellence. I'm going to play this game as hard as I can. I'm going to chase a P&L, but I will not lie, cheat, or steal to do it.
Yep.
And it's just like, because it's not fun playing the game that way.
You're chasing excellence. At the end of the day, I think his point was, don't chase money, chase excellence. The money will be there. I mean, he didn't say, hey, Priceline.com is going to be $1 billion business. He said, man, there's inefficiency in the marketplace. There's all these hotel rooms that are just sitting there. How about if we just said someone gets to say, and kind of let the market decide rather than a hotel manager deciding what the value of the room is, how you let the marketplace decide what the value of the room is. And it just proved to be a massive hit and $1 billion idea.
Yeah. And then, so as he was chasing excellence, he was developing gold medal talents. He wasn't being slowed down by like, oh, my profit margins aren't high enough.
His gold medal talent, ironically, is not hotels or the analysis of hotels. He said, my gold medal talent is building algorithms.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I don't have that, Jimmy. Do you have that?
No, too much math.
Yeah.
But so how do you think things would change if more people just worried about pursuing excellence?
Gosh, I mean, look at society today. I think it would help all around, right? I don't want to get into a deep philosophical debate, but I think if people were content on just trying to be the best version of themselves, it would be amazing.
And then it's like, I don't think you can disregard money. Like you have to keep score. Like playing, if you didn't keep score in golf, is it any fun?
No.
So it's just the same thing. I think people's stress levels will go down. I know my stress level goes down when I think I'm like, no, I'm going to do the right thing. Dollars follow value. I'm going to become excellent creating value.
Yeah, a lot of that is a property management business. You know, the property management business for us, it's a very low margin business, but you've got to be excellent at it to get the benefits from it. And that to me is where we are truly chasing excellence in property management. And the reason we do it in-house, as I know you do, is because there are very few that do it effectively, right? I mean, not many people are actually really, really good at property management. And for us to actually chase excellence in that, it is truly not chasing money. It's about being the best and the leader in that space.
Well, so like of the things I do, I'll be honest with you, property management is the one that gets my blood like boiling the least. It gets me, but it's like, I love it. Like you describe it, it's a crock pot business, but I've just turned it into a game with myself. Is like, can I make a business based off systems, processes, standards that becomes excellent? So like, I don't care that it's low profit. I'm playing a game. I talk a lot about systems and processes and follow up and getting better. It's like, this is a game I'm playing to see if I can do this, see if I'm full of crap or not.
Well, and the good news for you is, yes, you absolutely can.
Yeah. And then just trying to get it, just plugging holes, filling gaps every day. And I will say the process mindset property management has made construction better. And if construction is better, more deals are better. And you can you have more confidence to do more high margin activity.
You're chasing excellence and the money will follow. 100% agree with you. Okay. Point number 4, guys. He talked about building a brand. There were a few key takeaways here, all kind of around the same thing. I'll give you some high level and Jimmy, you can take it, but he said, do not explain many benefits. He said, focus on the one reason that your customers will choose you. He even said, go get your customers, your top, 10, top 100 customers, and just have them do a survey. Why did you choose us? Why do you value our service? And he said, I think you'll be surprised that they'll all come back with kind of your one thing. And it may even surprise you if you've never done this before. But your brand asset should be 3 things: distinguishable, memorable, and powerful. So to distinguish yourself in the space, build a brand around your brand promise and focus on the one thing.
I was smiling on that one just because I got to chew on it for a lot more longer than this. I re-listened to his talk this morning when I was working out, and I'm like, man, like that's challenging. Like I think that just takes a lot of time. But
what does it take away? It takes time to think. Like here's a whole big takeaway for me, Jimmy. And I'm sorry to interrupt. You can come back on that thought. I'm reading a book right now called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
That's my favorite, one of my top 5 favorite books.
Okay. What does he say at the end of every chapter?
Something about don't be stupid.
He says, take some time to think. You'll thank me later.
Yeah.
Go think. You'll thank me later.
I love saying that to
the
people.
toughest thing for entrepreneurs is to take time out of their business and just think. The one thing about having Chris Johns here as my COO at the office is he actually encourages me, hey, you've got to go think on that. He tries to get me out of the day-to-day, out of the office, because he knows that when I have time to actually think and process, there's clarity in that. And you have these aha moments when you're like, oh, yeah, actually. But if you're getting interrupted, or if you're, worried about, different things inside your scheme of work and you don't have time to think, there's no clarity. And I think that's what, when you say I need to think about it, my challenge to you would be, you need time away from the office to just breathe, because it's such a high powered, high charging guy, and you always go do. You need to some time to actually slow down and think about your brand message. What is your one thing?
Well, and then I agree with that completely. But the dark side of that brand thing is, I believe people have unrealistic expectations that they'll think about their brand, do their brand, and then it's going to work. I think it's going to take at least 5 or 6 iterations.
Fair.
And market testing.
Yep.
I know
probably one of the reasons that he said, yeah. And look, you can change, right? I mean, we have pivoted. My goodness, we're probably on, SBD 3.0 right now, right? Like, we've pivoted and changed to the market dynamics, and where your business can go. But I think having clarity of thought, of what you want to be in that 3 to 5 year. The other, one of my Q4 rocks is to create a vivid vision. I don't know if you've read Cameron Herold's book, The Vivid Vision, but an amazingly good book that just challenges the CEO to get crystal clear vision. And basically the premise here, Jimmy, is that you're writing a script that tells in 3 years' time exactly from each department what your company looks like operationally, from a marketing perspective, what employees are working there, what the end goals are, how you're giving back, all those different things on how your business is operating at a very high level. And the vivid vision creates clarity for all those in the organization so that they can, push hard. One of the challenges as you continue to scale and grow, and we're over 30 employees, is that everyone is tied in, and they clearly don't all have time with me, but they should all have time to hear my message. And having a crystal clear message that is unifying and allows them to, push hard towards that singular goal is a valuable tool to have.
So how are you going to crack that nut? Are you going to do like team trainings? How are you going to, by the way, I wrote that, I will download that book today. But
massive impact.
My main question is going to be, because I do struggle with this. Like,
there's not consensus, there's commitment. I'm not looking for consensus. I don't care what other people's, vision of what my company is going to do. That is
no, but how are you even going to get the, so like in the military, we had to make sure the lowest private knew the mission, right?
Yes.
How are you going to get?
So literally the vivid vision is a written document that you'd give not only to your employees, but to vendors, banking partners, investors. You can give it to the world. It's literally a byproduct of your crystal clear vision. You're now saying, hey, look at who we are. And it's kind of who we are in 3 years' time, but it's written, you read it as though it's what's happening today, and you live into that. You'll get clarity when you read the book, but it's essentially a tool that you can give to others so they can read up and they start talking the same vernacular, using the same terms. What are the terms that we talk about? How do we speak and grow and get better at what we do? So anyway,
so yeah, how are you gonna execute on it so that the newest hire at SBD can articulate the vivid vision?
They will read my vivid vision, and then we will continue to talk about it at every meeting. It goes way beyond core values. Most people say, well, we've got crystal clear because we have core values. Well, you could have 3 different companies that all have core values of professionalism, accountability, integrity, quality, good communication. They could be, that doesn't mean who you are. That's a core values of how you're actually going to operate. But what you do needs vision and strategy around it. And that's where this vivid vision picture is going to play out.
Oh,
I think what Jeff Hoffman in his presentation to CG was referencing was, guys, you have to be able to, explain your one thing to people. They have to be clear. And again, he said, look, we had this site now that could high power and drive, revenue to all different industries. Airline industry, rental car industry, but that's like 3%. They are 97% hotels, and they've stayed consistent to that. That is who they are and where their brand promise is.
I like it. You want to do a podcast on that book after I'm done reading it?
Happy to. would love to get Cameron actually coming to speak to us at CG. So that's another goal.
Are you working that?
Working it.
Nice.
Okay. Number 5, and this is my favorite. Ideas are welcome, but execution is worshipped.
I loved it. That was incredible.
Oh my gosh. Give me your thoughts on that one, Jimmy.
Well, here's how in my mind, here's how I can not justify, but how I can connect that Jeff is such a regular guy. And I'm like, what is it? I know he talks about his own superpower in algorithms, but legitimately the reason he's a billionaire and I'm me is because this dude is a ninja at executing. And then the thing I love about it is like, I'll never be the math guy, the algorithm guy like him, but you can choose to continue to progress to being a great executor. Like that's just pure self-will. That's just pure willingness to submit to the process. So that's why I found it incredibly encouraging.
He gave an example of they're all friends of his. That's the cool thing about, getting a keynote from a billionaire. It's like, my buddy, Jeff. Do you guys know Amazon? Jeff Bezos? Oh yeah, I'm
right
here. Every story, would talk about, a different person that clearly was a world-known people. He's friends with Pitbull. He has started the Global Entrepreneur Network with he and Pitbull kind of as the key head figures there. He's the chairman of that board. He has spent time with Evander Holyfield and Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps. I mean, just surrounded himself with some really talented individuals.
Well, I mean, you spent time with Pitbull.
Yeah, I was front row waving at him.
That's close enough.
One of the things he talked about was and I forget the name of the owner of the company, but 1-800-Flowers. He talked about the guy that started 1-800-Flowers, or was it 1-800-Flowers.com, whatever it was. But anyway, the flower company that's now this massive global presence. He talked about how everywhere he wrote up on the walls, sell more flowers. That was everybody's goal, sell more flowers. And so one day this guy walks into, he was giving a tour to a new manager at a store and goes into the warehouse. And one guy is, spending some money on changing from a different kind of, I'm not a car guy, but some kind of, different filter system in the trucks. And he's like, hey, why are you doing that? It's like, well, if we do this, it's going to save downtime on the trucks. Well, why would you want to do that? Sell more flowers. And he turns around, looks at the wall, and inside the garage where these guys are working on trucks, sell more flowers. And even so, I think his point there was, even the guys that are just working on cars, which could be in any industry, they knew and were tied into the goal that their job had to do with selling more flowers. I thought that was pretty impactful.
Yeah, that was another thing. I was like, I'm thinking how I could apply that to my own business. Do you think you should put signs up around SBD, like sell more houses?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously that's where my brain goes. I'm a visual learner, right? I love vision of, decorative things. Chris is the exact opposite. However, I believe that having reminders on walls is a pretty powerful, or different depictions on walls or written sayings. I have actually accumulated in my cell phone when I hear like really, really cool sayings, I'll just go ahead and just, jot them down. And I have about 50 or 60 different quotes that have been pretty impactful for me over the years. And, my brain is going towards, depicting them in the office somehow. Sure.
I'm still chewing.
You still have an office that everyone goes to every day, or are you guys a little bit more virtual?
No, we've been remote since COVID, but I am, I'm chewing on whether, so our wholesaling guys, they said, hey, can we get an office? And I was like, yeah. So they have an office. We have a remote office for property management. Then one of my old rentals we use for construction. And then Susie is drilling me on my logic of that decision right now. So I'm definitely chewing on it.
Gotta love Susie's input.
Yeah. Because I am concerned, like we're not building a culture being remote.
That was the big decision, the big decision factor for us remaining in the office was we felt it was a challenge to build culture remotely. I know some people are doing it well. That's fine for us. We love being in here, having meetings, going to people's office, getting the buzz, especially when we really have 4 businesses in one. We have a sales and marketing acquisition team. We have construction department. We have a property management company, and then obviously, kind of the office and back end sales division. So yeah, it's a beast, and you've got to get buy-in. And I think what Jeff's point on, ideas are welcome, execution is worshipped. As I come back to that, so many people can just kind of throw their hat in the ring and just keep saying, what if this, what if that, what if that? Okay, that's all fine, but here's that one thing. Let's just go crush it. Just go do this. Well, we can talk about that and implement that maybe later, but just go do this one thing.
Yeah, and it's another dichotomy, right? Like, I think there's times to plan, there's times to think, and then there's times just to grind and execute. And the trick is knowing which one of those times this is. You know what I mean?
Yes, we still find ourselves in the grind 90% of the time.
And that's one of my favorite things about EOS is you plan that time. You plan once a week and then once a quarter for a full day. And every quarter I walk into EOS like, no, I just want to go grind. But it's like, no, you got to have that time for ideas. And then you leverage that idea time by executing the other 13 weeks.
Yes, well said. Okay, number 6. This is the last one. 6 is a weird number. I don't know how we came up with this, but the last one he talked about was talent. The scarcest resource in the world is not money, it's talent. And attracting and retaining talent is the most important job we have. Do you want to share his story about how he found his HR director? Do you remember that one?
I remember it, but not enough to tell it. Can you tell the story?
Fair. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. Yeah.
Oh, you embarrassed me on my podcast, Mark. I'll never forgive you.
So Jeff was looking for an HR director, and he was, just thinking, okay, what's the best way to get the best, most talented HR person? So, and I forget what company he was even talking about now. I think it was for the auction.com. But anyway, he was, scrolling around and going on Indeed and all these different websites, and suddenly saw that there was an HR conference in Miami coming up here in this week. And so he scheduled some time, went into the HR conference, and he put a badge on, and on his, it said, Jeff Hoffman, CEO. And he went around and everyone else said HR director, HR manager, HR coordinator, and everyone in the room is HR. And so he was the only CEO in the entire conference. So there came a time when he was sitting down listening, and there were some keynote speakers, and there was kind of about 8 keynote speakers that were in the room. And then there was a time when all the new people that were at the conference kind of got shepherded into another area, and there was only about 30 people that were left. So once those 30 people were left, he jumped on a table and said, basically announced to the room, hey, who's the #1 guy in this room? Who's the best HR person in this room? And they went and kind of all pointed to this guy, Mike. And so he immediately just went, and they were called like, who are you? Like, oh, I'm just a CEO, and don't mind me. Goes over and speaks to Mike and talked to Mike and said, how are, started talking at a high level, HR, who do you work for? What do you do? And basically recruited this guy away from his current company to come work for him, because there was consensus that this guy was the absolute best at what he did. Kind of the funny story, but at the end of the day, what his quote was basically saying, you have to schedule time to hunt for talent. If you only look at the pool of unemployed workers, you are not going to find the best people for that job. Clearly, you have to go and headhunt from companies that currently have talent and are using talent. And people that are super successful in what they do don't always just quit or get fired. They largely looking for opportunities while they're still employed. If you don't have a process and if you don't schedule time, again, back to the Keith Cunningham, schedule time to think. If you don't schedule time to go find the top talent and recruit it away from those that may have already got them in place as an employee, you're going to lose out.
Yeah, Jimmy? Once again, like, that's another stretch thing for me. That's definitely something I have never scheduled time or talent for, and like, it has definitely bitten me before.
Hey, look, these are the keys to entrepreneurial success. So, Jimmy, like, as you, I'll kind of go through these. I had them written down again. I'm just going to go over them. I want to get your key takeaways and key thoughts before we wrap this, but I'll go over them one more time. 6 things. Think different. Billionaires think differently. Think bigger. Challenge yourself to think bigger and challenge yourself to get some thinking time. Number 2, find your gold medal talent, guys. You've got to focus on your gold medal talent. What is it that you do better than anybody else? Number 3, don't chase money, chase excellence. Be the best version of yourself. Number 4, build a brand around your one thing. You've got to distinguish yourself in the marketplace. Your asset should be distinguishable, memorable, and powerful, but build that brand. Number 5, ideas are welcome, but execution is worshipped. That's self-explanatory. And lastly, number 6, your keys to entrepreneurial success are finding talent. You've got to go schedule time to hunt and find talent, because talent is the scarcest resource in the world and the one that's going to take you to the top. He freely admitted, and the biggest takeaway I had just from spending time with Jeff was, this guy is one of the most nicest, most giving, most generous guys that I've ever met. And he never once said, hey, I'm the smartest guy in the room. That's what's driven me to success. He oftentimes said, I wanted to make myself the dumbest guy in the room. And that was how I gauged my success. If I'm the dumbest guy in the room, then I've surrounded myself with pretty smart people that can take me to the next level.
I think you did a great job summing it up, Mark. That's what, you've had a good keynote when you're like, yeah, I agree with everything the guy says, but man, I got a lot of work to do to like have integrity and actually agree with that guy says. Like, I've never spent the time to like start recruiting. I know you guys at SBD actually have made that a position on your leadership team, right?
Correct.
And so I love a keynote where I get challenged, see gaps, and get inspired.
Yeah, the director of talent acquisition, when we brought Susie on board, has been a game changer. Don't mind saying it publicly that the level of talent in our organization has really elevated. And the people that we have brought on board in the last 12 months are all rock stars at what they do. And we're seeing the drop down immediately. As you surround yourself with talented individuals and you grow and scale, and you can kind of become more specialized in your individual tasks. As you're starting a business, clearly as an entrepreneur, you're the jack of all trades. You're doing everything. But I have found, and you can quote me, that as I have committed to paying more money to hire more talented individuals, it has absolutely helped the bottom line.
Well, I will tell you this from personal experience, because I think we're on Vreeland 3.0 as well. Like, you either pay in salary for talent or you pay in misery for not doing it. Like, we have I have Vreeland Capital BC and Vreeland Capital AC, and AC is for Christy, who she's my executive assistant, but she pretty much fired everybody and rehired everybody. And so that, like, if you're starting a business and you haven't hit that ceiling of complexity where you gotta start hiring more talent, like, it's a unbelievable feeling when you catch that wave, when the talent comes in and starts lifting the entire organization. Like, it's cool to be a lone individualist. It's cool to be highly talented, but there's no better feeling than when everybody's in the same boat, rowing together.
Yeah. I mean, there's a quote by Mia Hamm. I think I've never scored a goal without the ball being touched by one of my teammates. Yeah. I think there's a lot to it. As a team member, you have to realize that, you can't do it alone. You can, have a small business on your own. If you're trying to grow and scale and get out of the entrepreneurial grind, which is a grind, as you continue to scale and grow, talent is a valuable key. Dude, we got 6 massive, impactful things as a key takeaway from Jeff Hoffman. Jimmy, I want to thank you for your time. I think this has been a valuable episode. Keys from a billionaire to entrepreneurial success. Anything you want to leave your audience with? I'll let you wrap.
I'm just gonna, you set this stuff up. You connected CG with Jeff. And so as a member of CG, I'd like to thank you. And then on behalf of my audience for bringing this to everybody, I'd like to thank you for that as well.
It's always a pleasure, Jimmy. For those, we have a December 6th is our next CG. Orlando, Florida. So look for coming in the new year, probably the first week of January, when Jimmy and I get back into the podcast studio, and we'll drop some more nuggets. But until then, thanks for listening to the Mistake-Free Real Estate podcast, and we will see you soon.